Welcome to Providence College Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Kay, and we're here with producer Chris Judge, a member of the class of 2005. Here on the Providence College Podcast, we tell interesting stories about the Fryer family. And today we're talking with Rosy Khalife, who graduated from PC in 2013 with a degree in marketing. Rosy is Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Surprise Ride, a subscription box service launched to help children take a break from technology. She and her sister have been featured on Shark Tank and have recently launched a line of products for people of all ages. Rosy has also been named one of Washington Business Journal's 40 Under 40. Rosy, congratulations and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Liz.
Let's talk a little bit about Surprise Ride. What inspired you and your sister to start the company?
So growing up, our dad's actually an artist. So growing up, we used to do a lot of activities with him around the house. And we really didn't grow up with a lot of fancy toys and, electronics, Nintendo, things like that. And so we used to always go to him whenever we were bored, and he would always give us something to do, something that was fun and educational and creative. And he's such a creative person. So we, years later, obviously I went to high school and then I went to college, and then Donna did her MBA. And so, we went on two different paths in life. And then we realized how kids these days are just growing up so differently than the way that we did. And they're glued to their screens. The invention of the iPad has had so many wonderful benefits. And also, obviously there's some cons to it as well. So we started doing these activities with our nephews, and we learned how much they love them and how kids actually want to be doing hands-on projects and want to be doing things that are offline, but they just don't always have the means to do that. Their parents are busy or so many other reasons. So it kind of took on organically a little bit. And then we created a website, and, I can talk a little bit about that later, but that's kind of the impetus for starting the company.
So how did you take the idea and make it a reality?
Well, so initially we literally just launched a website that was super ugly. This was 5 years ago or so now. And the tools that are now available to people like Shopify, Wix.com, et cetera, they weren't there then. So to create a website, you really did need to learn how to code and make it. So we learned how to code, and we put up a really ugly website. We had a friend of ours who was an engineer. He met us at Panera on a Saturday morning, and he helped us actually launch it, into the public. And then we created our first kit, and that was the bird one. And it taught kids all about birds, how they fly, what do they eat, and it had an activity in it too. So it was kind of creating the prototype of our initial one, and then also creating the actual website. And that's how we got it off the ground initially.
And so how many customers did you have for those first boxes, for those first prototypes?
Oh man, not a lot at all, actually. Like maybe a couple dozen. It was mostly friends and family, emailing all of our friends. That's a big one. I think a good lesson for fellow entrepreneurs is you always forget that each of us have our own network that we can tap into, even if we're not, an influencer of some kind, but we all are. And so we tapped into our own network, just literally emailing every single person we knew, asking them to tell all of their friends. And that's how we got our first, 24 customers. And then from there, it sort of grew organically, but very slowly. And then, the rest is kind of history in a way.
And you were still an undergraduate at the time, correct?
Yes. So I was a senior at PC, and I had a full course load. And I started this when I was a senior. And then I actually even did an accelerator during that same time. So I was running around all the time, but somehow I managed to get straight A's my senior year, which I had never done before. So I think it's just a testament to when you're doing so many different things, you really have to get your ducks in a row and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. There's no time for procrastination. And that's what happened. So that was pretty awesome.
It sounds like, people say that your work expands to fill the time you have when you have no time. Mm-hmm. You just get it done. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about Beta Spring and what was that experience at the accelerator like? Okay.
Yeah, of course. So actually the Beta Spring accelerator is an accelerator that was in Providence. And so the way I actually heard about that was through the dean of the business school at PC. I remember meeting with her and telling her about Surprise Ride, and then her telling me, I just met with this accelerator. Have you heard of them? and I hadn't at the time. And because of her, I mean, and it's so interesting how life happens that way sometimes, from her mentioning them, I looked them up. We ended up applying. We hadn't missed the deadline. We ended up applying for it. They got thousands of applications from all over the world. We had people in our class from India, from Britain, from all over, and they ended up accepting us. So that was really, really cool. But the accelerator was just intense. It's basically, what you would do in 6 or 12 months, or a year really, you would do in 3 months. So you're there every single day. So I would go to class, and then I would jump the bus and go to downtown Providence. And then Donna, my sister, would have already been there, that morning. And then we would just work through the night every single day for that 3-month period. And we met with so many mentors, and we got like our accounting fixed, legal stuff. You kind of do all the things that you need to do to be a legitimate company, and they help you through all those things. We started testing marketing. That's when we, threw the dart at the board and decided to try to get on Shark Tank. So that was a really magical time for us as a company. And we owe the time there to a lot of the awesome things that have happened since.
Now, your trip to Shark Tank really got the conversation started about Surprise Ride. How did you get on the show, and how did you prepare?
Yeah, so the way we got on the show is somehow, I don't remember exactly, but basically what happened is we ended up getting the email of an executive producer. He was on some chain of emails that we were on, and that's how, we found his email. And then we ended up emailing him and saying, like, here's our story. We love watching Shark Tank because of all the stories, and we just wanted to share ours. And then he ends up replying within minutes, literally, and says, like, hey, can you jump on a call? And we're thinking, like, oh my God, we prepped for this email. We didn't prep for potentially having a call with him. So we jump on the call with him, and he's interested. He wants samples. He wants a video, all this crazy stuff. And he wants the video like ASAP. And he basically literally tells us, like, since you guys are a tech company, I expect the video to not be, to be on the caliber of you being a tech company, a tech startup, as in make sure it's not a crappy video. And we don't know anything about video making. We didn't at the time, especially. And so we ended up just emailing friends, and it was Memorial Weekend. I mean, just everything. We had to literally get people away from their families just so they could help us with the video. But we ended up making it happen. And then that was just a long process. So that's a long process for anyone trying to get on Shark Tank. It takes months and months and months, and you just never know if you're actually going to air. Even when you go to LA and actually pitch, you do like a dress rehearsal, they can still cut you then. Even when you're there, you have a hotel, you've done every single thing, the day before airing, they can cut you. And it's quite stressful in that way. You never know if you're spending your time doing something that's going to be worthwhile. So quite the crazy experience for sure. But we're very fortunate that it ended up being lucky, and we ended up being lucky in that it actually did air, and we got all that.
So you got on Shark Tank, you did air, but tell us a little bit about what happened on the show.
Okay, so we got go to LA, they fly us out there. We have our hotel, they give us a trailer. We're there for 5 days. Every day we're waking up at 4 a.m. just to give you a sense of the level of craziness that it is. And at the same time, you're still trying to run your business and grow your business. So you're trying to do everything at once. And basically, we filmed for Shark Tank, and we got an offer from Robert, and we didn't take it right away. And so it was a very dramatic episode where his ego got in the way, and he basically felt like, well, if you didn't take it right away, then I don't want to keep the deal. And so he took the offer back. And the reason we didn't take it right away is because there was other people that weren't out yet, and we wanted to hear what they had to say. And so we felt like, oh no, we've spent all this time prepping and all this dedication to make this work, and we didn't take a deal, so we might not air. So we were really worried about that. And we felt when we left, like, okay, we're very much believers in things happen the way that they need to happen. And so we felt like, okay, this is going to serve us somehow. And it did, because, we ended up not needing he clearly wasn't the right partner for us, and we didn't need his help, and we continued to grow the company. And then they basically reached out to us about a year or so after Shark Tank did, and they were like, hey, people are always asking, what happened to those sisters that started that kids company? Where are they now? Are they still in business? Can we come and do an update on you? So they came to DC. They filmed an update where, we were just working. And then we got a surprise phone call from Kevin O'Leary, who is Mr. Wonderful on the show. And he basically made us a deal and we took it. And so we're now part of his portfolio company. And we're just so happy that we're with him. I think I can honestly say out of all the sharks, he is one of the most accessible ones and just so caring. You can literally text him. Like I have his number. I can text him. He's available. He's ready to go. He makes intros quickly. So I think, you really have to believe that things happen ultimately the way that they should. And that we're such a testament to that for us, for sure.
So what other lessons do you feel like you've learned from that experience in terms of going forward and how you've been able to apply them to the business?
Yeah, so many. I think one big thing is Shark Tank makes you grow up quickly. I don't know how else to say it, but as a business, sort of, you really need to have everything ready to go to even walk out onto Shark Tank. So even before you film and all that, you need to have all the things that they want. They want a business plan. They want all your financials. They want all this really great info that's starting off is maybe a little bit tricky to get. But once you get all that, it puts you in a really good position to then raise capital from outside of Shark Tank. So you kind of have to do the work. That's one big thing that we had to do that did end up serving us. And then if you do end up airing, you're in the public eye, which is just such an interesting place to be, given that I'm not someone who grew up in the public eye and not really, in any sense of the word. Not most people haven't. And so it puts you right front and center. So you really have to learn to not take what people say personally. And it gives you a little bit of a thick skin because you get good feedback, right? You get bad feedback. People want to say something mean. People want to say something nice. And you just kind of learn to not care and not let anyone get in the way of the dream that you have set for yourself. So definitely our skin is extremely thick. I mean, we got so many good, amazing feedback, but I think as a human, you always gravitate towards the negative and listen to that instead of all the positive. And so that's, I think, one of the big lessons for us, for sure.
I think there's been a lot of discussion recently in the media about the experience of women in corporate America and as entrepreneurs. What kind of challenges have you and your sister faced as women running a startup in tech, in business?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. Corporate America in general, it has a lack of women, right? So there's this discussion around that. And then you look at this ecosystem of the startup world, and you realize that there's even less women in the startup world than there are in even other industries out there. And so it's this really interesting kind of bubble that exists within the bigger bubble. And so I remember, when we were starting off, I was so young. I was just a senior in college, and I feel like I've grown so much since, but just starting off and attending tech events, going to conferences, and literally walking into the room and looking around and feeling like, wow, we are the only women founders here, which is so amazing. And let alone being, a 2-woman founded team, that's almost unheard of. Some teams have 1 woman founder on them, which is cool and wonderful. But so I think that was a lot, in the beginning, it was just kind of a little bit of an interesting observation that we've realized. But I really feel like if you believe in what you're doing and you know that what you're doing is going to make a difference, you have to not think about the fact that, what are the odds for a woman founder, or what are, women founders raise so much less fundraising than men. That's a fact, obviously. And so if you let the facts kind of continue to cloud the way that you're thinking, it makes it very tricky and makes it really hard. And it's constantly something that can defeat you. But we've tried to not let it get in the way. We're aware of it. It bothers me when people say things like, ignore it. It's hard. You can't ignore it, right? The facts are there, and those are actual facts. But we've not try to ignore it as much as we've tried to not let it get to us and continue to do the things that we're doing and believing in ourselves. And I think the fact that Donna is my sister helps, because at the end of the day, we've created, we have such a beautiful bond together as family that no outside prejudices or outside, any issues from the outside world can really get in between that. So we're very lucky in that way.
You've got that as a foundation, your family.
Yeah.
That's where it starts.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us where things stand with Surprise right now. How many employees do you have? Give us an update.
Oh, yeah, sure. So where we're at right now is basically we've grown the company. We've raised $4.2 million. We have offices in DC. I was very lucky to have some PC students and some members of the administration come to our offices not too long ago, and we were so happy to have them. That was really wonderful. So we have our offices here in DC, and then our warehouse is in California, San Diego. And then most of our team is here. We have some members that are remote. That's one thing that we've kind of learned as a growing pain of the company. You want to kind of create this one place where everyone is, but talent is really all over the country. So we've learned that how do we create a remote team when we also have a team that's here in DC? So that's been an interesting challenge. And something that we've had to overcome, and I think a lot of companies have. So we're at about 20 people now here and in all over. We have our developer in Boston, and then we have our designer in Florida. So we're kind of all over the place.
Tell us a little bit about your products and the newest innovations in the lineup.
Yeah. So our products, we started off as purely a subscription. Basically, we would deliver kits to families that would help kids get off the iPad. And since then, we've learned that people really want to buy our products in retail stores as one-off. We just wanted to kind of expand our offering. And so now you can buy our kits as one-offs. And basically what the kit itself is, it's all around a specific theme. So, for example, the monster one is all about monsters and, making slime. And so then kids make an activity. And then there's also a book. And so since launching, we have published over 12 books, and we've written and published those ourselves. We've designed them in-house. So they really are beautiful, and they're exactly what we wanted. Whenever we were sourcing books for our kits, we always felt like, if only it had this, if only it had that. So now they are exactly how we want them. They have a story in the front, and then they have a lot of facts and more nonfiction content in the back. So it's a little bit of both. And then basically they're all about just getting families together, doing something that's not on technology. I think kids are having a problem. Adults are having this problem. I can speak for myself where, I wake up and I look at my phone right away and I just know that's not healthy. So our products are really trying to help families create memories in that type of setting.
And you mentioned how students from PC and DC came to visit you at Surprise Right. I'm curious when you think back about your PC experience, what helped inspire you and lead you to where you are today?
Oh man, such a good question. I think, having the flexibility as an undergrad, you forget almost how lucky you are to have the flexibility to explore and try things and be curious and be risky. And, all of that is okay at that age and in that stage of your life. And so I think that's kind of how I felt. I remember, at PC, so I was in BMSA, and so I did a lot of events. I helped put on a lot of events for PC, and just having that authority to be able to, take our budget, execute, get vendors, get people to come to the event, get tickets. I mean, that's all business 101, right? And so I think being in leadership positions at PC has definitely helped me with that. I was also an RA, so I can see how those skills are spot on with running a business. I had to run meetings. I had to meet with people. I had to put on events. I had to do all the things that I do now. Icebreakers, things you wouldn't even think are pertinent, but they end up, coming into your life as an entrepreneur. And so I think being an RA and being in leadership roles definitely helped shape the way that I think about leadership and the way that I think about running a team and managing people and keeping them motivated. Those are all things I had to do in all those roles. Even being in group projects, when you're in a project, you have a couple of members who's doing what. is anyone slacking? All those things come into play in the team environment at a startup as well. So definitely, those are the things that come to mind right off the bat.
It's fabulous to hear that you feel like you developed those skills while, checking rooms, doing, overnight shifts as an RA and your group projects. Let's talk a little bit about what brought you to PC in the first place. How did you find PC?
Yeah. How did I find it? I kind of think. Well, what was really important to me when I was looking for schools was that I went to New Bedford High School in Massachusetts, which is a really, really big school. It's a public high school. And I was looking for something that was smaller, my sister went to BU and my other siblings went to UMass. So I felt like I was looking for something that was a little cozier. I didn't want to just be a number. And that was really important to me. And then I love that there was a focus on teaching kids things beyond, whatever your major is. Like learning about philosophy is important, and literature and history. Those are all things that make you a well-rounded person. So those are kind of the things that I was looking for. And then PC felt like it fit those. I did do a day. I came and spent a day here with a student, a PC student. That was really fun. That gave me a good feel of the school. And I came to visit a bunch of times because it wasn't too far. And then I love that it wasn't far from home. Not, it's far enough, but not too far, because I really care about my family, and I wasn't looking to run away, and like go to California or something. That was totally not me. I wanted to be able to go home for birthdays and see my parents and things like that. So I think it was just fit all the criteria for me. And then I was able to get a merit scholarship for PC as well, which obviously helped, make the decision even more easier for me at that time when I was assessing all my different acceptances.
Rosy, you have a fascinating personal journey to the United States itself. Can you tell us how you came to New Bedford in the first place?
Yeah. So we moved around so much as kids, and our dad's an artist, like I said, and our parents we're from Lebanon, and we had a house in Lebanon, and my parents, spent their careers before I was this was pre-kids, building that house and kind of creating their early marriage life in thinking it's going to be in Lebanon. And then a war happened in Lebanon, and it just wasn't the right environment to be able to raise kids. And so they have just been constantly, as kids, they were constantly looking, where can I raise these kids in the best way? So we're four. There's four of us, and that's kind of what led them all over. So we moved to Canada as refugees from Lebanon, and we lived in Canada for about 7 years, and then we moved to Texas because we had an uncle there, and then we moved to Massachusetts. And I mean, they were just constantly looking for what is the best place to give these kids the best education. And that's what we always heard as kids: education, education, education. And, looking back now, I mean, I'm so grateful for the challenges they had. I mean, at one point, they had to work 2 jobs to just provide for us, and nothing was ever below them, even though they came from well-educated backgrounds. When you come to a new country, you don't get the job you had when you were at the country you were at before. You get whatever you get. And so they worked at restaurants. I mean, they just did whatever they had to make ends meet, and I'm very grateful for that. And for sure, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for their constant dedication to us. And we were their 101 priority, like nothing else, just us four, and making sure that we got a good education. That was always their number one priority, for sure.
And this sounds like it sounds like they still had time to invest in you, and you have this great relationship with your father, and that led you to this business, which is fantastic. Yeah. If people tell me what's new with Surprise Drives, anything on the calendar going forward?
Yeah, we have some fun stuff. So we are actually going on QVC next month, which is really exciting. And funny enough, Donna is actually at QVC right now. She's doing a training. So they make you go through this. It's a whole process. I mean, you would think you could just go on, but it is probably years in the making, if I'm going to be honest. That's how long it takes. So we are very excited about this July, and it's called Christmas in July. And so we're going to be on QVC. So hopefully you guys get to check that out. I'm excited about that. Kevin is also going to be on there with us. And then we just also launched a partnership with Craftsy, which is a really awesome company that makes videos, tutorial videos. So imagine if you could take the best of YouTube and put it all in one place. And so they've just launched a family section of their business, and they're using surprise ride kits, and kids are going to be doing our kits through the videos. So we're really excited about that too. So those are just some things top of mind right now that I've been working on.
If people want to find out more about Surprise Ride or find a box themselves, where should they go?
SurpriseRide.com. So it's surprise like the word, and then ride, RIDE.com.
Fantastic. Rosy, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We really appreciate hearing about your story. Subscribe to the Providence College Podcast in all the usual places, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. If you like what you hear, please review and share with others. Thanks for listening, and go Friars.